This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance.
Niger's top court orders the French ambassador to be expelled from the country as thousands fled the streets of the capital, demanding French troops to also leave. Meanwhile, France suspends its military cooperation with Gabon after a military coup shakes up the Central African state. Locals tell us what they think of the latest events.
For 64 years, we've had just one regime, a regime that has oppressed us.
The coup d'etat has taken place was predictable, so the military has taken power, and that agitated the Gabonese people.
Plus, the United Nations demands an independent probe into the deaths of more than 40 people during a military crackdown on protests against a UN peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Hello,
and our U.S.-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Some things just make you feel more alive than others. Like the rush of adrenaline from an SUV that roars from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. Jaguar delivers that thrill every day. The F-Pace, how Jaguar makes an SUV.
Will Turkey ratify Sweden's NATO membership? Stockholm says it can't fulfill all Ankara's demands. As the bloc's membership requires unanimous approval, what would make Turkey change its mind? And what does all of this mean for NATO's future? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. One of the many fallouts of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been that previously neutral Nordic countries.
Now that's volume at 14. Let's get some volume.
So setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice slow dual clutch transmission. It's an 8-speed wet dual clutch here in the Veloster N. And so I do notice that it does have an engagement point still. It's definitely, pretty smooth, and I think it's a little bit smoother than the old dual clutches you get in like a normal Veloster Turbo or something. They still run a little bit of a dated dual clutch. This is this newer one. It's similar to the in-house Hyundai Kia dual clutch that they are using in other models, but it is of course beefed up here for the ends and has faster shifts and unique gear ratios, all that kind of stuff. But I can still sense a little bit of an engagement point. It's also not the smoothest, and obviously in a vehicle like this you don't really care about smoothness a whole lot, but it just there's been a few times I've only driven this vehicle about a dozen miles or so far, but I've already wanted to just do my own manual shifting in this a lot of the time, which you can do. The shifts are pretty quick even in normal mode, and I'll test that out some more here once we go up into the sportier modes. Yeah, so if you're in stop and go traffic a lot though, I think you will notice this dual clutch whenever you're inching up and stuff. It's not going to be as good as like a Porsche PDK or something like that, but this is, for a $30,000 vehicle essentially, to have a dual clutch this good is actually very impressive. And so, yeah, we'll talk more about that though, since this is again the big new thing here for this, as we're out driving a little bit sportier. But other things, visibility is very good here in the Velocers, like always. You have a nice large windshield, pretty thin A-pillar, great view out of the sides, especially this huge, single door here on the driver's side. And view out of the back is also, pretty good for a hatchback like this, although it's a little bit smaller than your average hatchback rear window, but still totally fine. And now, I'm just driving in normal mode. And one thing is, the ride is a tad bit firm, and they actually changed the spring rate and retuned the dampers as well here for the DCT version to make up for the fact that the weight distribution changed here with the DCT. So it's like 65% front weight distribution versus like 63.7. So it's a small change, but they did retune the suspension to accommodate that different weight balance. And so I'll kind of continue to test that and see if that really changed.
I'll never get tired of the pop crackles that you get from the exhaust on the Veloster N. When I first drove this car 2 years ago, I was completely blown away. Hyundai's performance division N, they have the guy from BMW M division working for them, and he knows how to build a car for enthusiasts. This car is a joy. Now, I love how it came with a 6-speed manual, of course, but everybody was curious, would Hyundai offer another transmission? And today I'm finally driving the Veloster N with the dual clutch. This is their new in-house designed 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission. And honestly, well, let's try the launch control first. That way you guys can see what it's like. To access launch control, you go into the screen here, go to performance options,
Let's get back to the music.
set the launch RPM and hit activate here. Floor the brake and the accelerator. Now, I will say that, as you can see, there is a ton of snow out there, and Hyundai delivered this car on its summer Pirelli P0 tires. It's like 38 degrees right now. So, I'm not going to be able to get the best launch right now, but you know what? That was still very impressive considering how cold it is outside, and I've got summer tires on this thing. That noise. Hyundai basically says with the dual clutch you're going to get to 60 in 5.6 seconds. That is a conservative number. I saw Car and Driver just tested this vehicle in ideal conditions and they got 4.8 seconds to 60. 4.8 seconds to 60 for a hot little hatch like this.
Yeah, let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. Steering immediately gets heavier. All right, NGS, here we go. All right, I wanted to steer itself right off the road there for a second. Wow. All right, this thing, listen to that. Wow. It's kind of fun how whenever it upshifts, it like really punches you in your back whenever it upshifts. It's really impressive. And man, this thing's a little rocket. Oh man, it's even faster than the manual transmission version, but whoo, this thing gets up and moves. This thing, oh, I love the boogie, it's great. And that NGS is really cool to get that extra little overboost. So, the Veloster N here runs a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that has 275 horsepower and normally 260 pound-feet of torque, although that jumps to 278 pound-feet of torque, again, with that NGS button for 20 seconds for that overboost to give you maximum acceleration. And then you just hear that glorious exhaust. I love the way these things sound. I love the manual transmission version, and it sounds just as good here in the ECT. But yeah, so 0 to 60, Car and Driver got 4.8 seconds. It was actually the fastest front-wheel drive vehicle they've ever tested. And previously, the manual transmission version would be about 5.2 seconds 0 to 60 that Car and Driver got. We'll go ahead and do the manual shifting here, though, see how that does. There's a slight delay on the upshift. The 1-2 shift was like immediate, and then the second to third to fourth were a little bit slower. Downshifts are immediate. And that's one thing I've noticed with other versions of this DCT, in the newest Kia Sorento and all those types of things. Downshifts are always very immediate and all those. Same deal here. You do hear a little bit of a whine from this transmission. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, I love that soundtrack. When we come up some corners here, let's see how the DCT version handles. It's like it's on rails. You have this quarter carving electronic limited slip differential, and that does a really good job of putting the car to the ground. I'm not really accelerating out of corners here. I'm just kind of coasting. But I love the crackles and pops. Brakes feel fantastic too. But I can tell that it's really wanting to spin those front tires still, even with the LSD and stuff. It is fighting for grip there, and it's great. But yeah, I mean, so brakes feel great. You know, obviously these larger brakes on the N version, and they have a little bit of a dead travel. It doesn't really start doing much until you're about a third of the way to this pedal, and then it starts really gripping on you there. But there's very immediate once you start getting onto them, and very good. And man, this thing, it's just so low and so sharp and so light feeling. I mean, this thing is a scalpel. I love the Veloster N. And so with the dual clutch version here, it did gain 96 pounds, and then I guess you saved, you know, almost 9 with these seats. So it would have been a little over 100 if you didn't swap the seats out. But you know, so even at 96 pounds heavier, you know, you're not going to really feel that because these are still so light. These weigh, even with the DCT, 3,186 pounds. The car driver got when they put it on their scales. So I mean, you're still looking at under 3,200 pounds, which is really rare in a vehicle these days, especially a vehicle that's practical at all. You know, and to have this much power, have the LSD, have, you know, all the stuff this has, to still be under 3,200 pounds is just so awesome. But yeah, and also in N mode, the steering is really, I love how heavy it gets. It's not like artificially heavy, it just feels really good. Anyway, I'm gonna pop out of the manual mode here, go back into auto mode. I'm gonna try doing a launch here if we can. See how that does. All right, so I activated the launch control. It lasts for 5 minutes. Then you just come to a stop, mash both pedals. Says it's ready. There we go. Oh, that works really well. It does a good job of, you know, limiting the traction. By the way, it was just set up for a 3,000 RPM launch. You can set that to a custom launch setting, as much as you want. Yeah, it works pretty well. I mean, you know, it's pretty quick. You know, we're still talking about, you know, roughly a 5 seconds 0 to 60. So I mean, it's nothing that's gonna blow your mind or anything. But again, for a front-wheel drive thing like this, I really love this, and it's awesome that they're just offering this because, you know, like the Honda Civic Type R, you know, they don't give you any kind of automatic option. You're stuck with the manual, which is great if you're someone like me who loves the manual. But if you're not, you know, that's like, it immediately disqualifies stuff like the Type R. And so now I'm glad that you don't have to disqualify the Veloster N. This just opens up the appeal to way more people. And so another thing to comment on here, so you have the adaptive dampers here, and so they are up in their highest Sport Plus setting here in the N version, or the N mode. And you know, it's firm, but honestly this feels a little more forgiving than I remember it being in the manual transmission version. Yeah, it's not actually that bad. So I'm kind of surprised, because the one thing with these wheels and tires is, you know, the suspension has to do all the work as far as, you know, making it seem, you know, relatively you know, livable from a ride standpoint. And thankfully, it does do a really good job. I love also how immediate and direct the steering is. The steering is it's so good. Every single thing about this car, to death. This thing is so good. Tighter corners here. See if this N-Track Sense thing can do anything that I noticed behind the wheel here. I know it's doing lots of stuff behind the scenes, but from the seat of the pants here, yeah, it feels just as good as it did with the manual mode. But, oh, this thing, I mean, you could just demolish a Mach-E. I love even so, that corner right there, it does provoke understeer sometimes in some cars. There's no such thing as understeer in the Veloster N. It just does such a good job with the, you know, ELSD and everything, of just making this thing just be an absolute joy on back roads. Oh man. Yeah, this thing, it still is magical. It still is fantastic. And back when I reviewed the manual version, I said I would actually pick it over Honda Civic Type R. Since then, I have spent a week with a revised Civic Type R. They did improve the suspension.
It cost around $33,000. That is just insane. This is one of the cheapest ways you can get into the 5 second 0 to 60 club nowadays. It's cheaper than a Civic Type R still, which was the other vehicle that could do it. A Golf R can also do it, but it's much more expensive. This will eat Volkswagen GTIs all day long, GLIs as well, Civic SIs. And it sounds better than all of them as well. Oh, this car is just absolutely insane. Chirping into second gear on a dual clutch. You guys heard that. This car does come, of course, with their corner carving and differential. So it's an E limited slip differential. 19-inch wheels are standard. The performance package is now standard this year. So of course you do get the upgraded brakes. You get the additional 25 horsepower. And with the dual clutch now, even though this weighs a little bit more, oh, it is just such a joy. Much better than the joyless CVT option that you get in something like a WRX. I was not expecting it to do that into first. That is freaking awesome. Now the one thing that's cool about this car is it also comes with an NGS. That stands for N Grin Shift. Push this button right here by the checkered flag and it kind of goes into a Porsche Sport Response button. Push that button there, 20 seconds of overboost. Everything's in full-on attack mode. And it also increases the torque of the engine from 260 pound-feet up to 278 pound-feet for this 20 seconds. That is just insane that it gives you that. They took it from Porsche, but I love that it's in this little Veloster N. That is so cool. So anytime you're looking for a quick burst, I can have the car in comfort mode or normal mode. Just push that NGS button and everything goes into a maximum attack mode for 20 seconds. Although I will say the button is not very well labeled. Most people are going to look at that and say, what the hell does NGS mean? And you kind of can lose it pretty quick. What a noise! I love this noise. I love this powertrain. It feels like a 5-ish second car in these conditions. It is so fast. The steering is so quick and responsive. The suspension stays nice and flat. Now I will say that they had to retune the shocks in the dual clutch model because of the weight distribution. It's a little more nose heavy now in this particular combination. So I am noticing the ride quality in the dual clutch model is a smidge rougher in normal mode. In Sport Plus mode, however, I'm noticing the ride is actually more comfortable than the last manual transmission model I tested, which is weird. But the Veloster N's always had more of a harder ride quality than its competitors, and that's kind of what you expect when you buy a hatch like this. Just because we can, let's try the launch control one more time. Surprisingly, no torque steer there, just a little bit of wheel hop as the transmission and computers tried to settle it down and wrangle all that power in, but that is just so much fun to drive. I cannot believe how good this little car is. This is just insane. Oh, listen to that noise. Makes you forget that this is a front-wheel drive car. From the way it takes corners, the eagerness of it, the exhaust noise, the way it pulls. This dual clutch is the perfect partner for this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And you know what? It's coming in the Elantra N. A full-on N version of the Elantra is coming if you guys don't like the Veloster's funky 3-door body style. But I like the changes that Hyundai has made this year. These new seats are very comfortable. They hold you in place really nicely. They added some driver assistance tech like blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist. Still can't get adaptive cruise in this car, which is weird. They should have just thrown it in on the dual clutch models, considering you have all the other features. I like the new 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay. Of course, it's not wireless. And then I wish they also threw in heated seats and a heated wheel. You can get that in other markets, not in the US, sadly.
But I still stand by what I said back whenever I reviewed the manual Veloster N. This is my favorite hot hatch. I would take this definitely over a GTI. I'd take it over the Civic Type R. Even though the Civic Type R has more horsepower, this is actually faster now in a straight line thanks to the automatic here. And I think it's just a combination of having a fantastic soundtrack, which you do not get at all in the Civic Type R. You can get very little sound in that car, sadly. And I mean, the Civic Type R is so good with, you know, its larger proportions, but the smaller size here in this makes it just that much more fun to chuck into a corner. I still think it's probably one of the best things you can get under, you know, $35,000 all day long. I mean, there are some fun rear-wheel drive options, you know, at that price point as well. But if you want something that's, you know, got the most power possible for your money and still have fantastic handling, fantastic practicality, and just a car that'll just put a smile on your face on every single corner, every single time you have this active exhaust on and do a shift. I mean, it's always just so much fun here in the Veloster N. Alright, so now we're on the highway here in the Veloster N, and so I'm trying out some of these new safety features. So, blind spot monitoring, all that kind of stuff, everyone really knows about that stuff for the most part. But one interesting thing, so you don't have an adaptive cruise system, you do have regular cruise control, but it has the lane keeping assist, so it has like the steering for like an adaptive cruise system, but it doesn't have the actual speed changing capabilities of an adaptive cruise system. So it's kind of an interesting blend of some automation and some, just basic cruise control stuff here. So I have the steering assist on here currently, and it does do a pretty good job of staying within the lanes here. I can't judge it quite as harshly as the other systems since they don't actually call this highway driving assist like they do in the other Hyundai models. But it does do a pretty good job of, helping you steer a little bit. It will take some of the fatigue out of long highway drives if that's something you're looking for. It is nice that they have it now. It's standard, but it's not something that I would say is, a must-have feature or anything, but it's certainly nice for them to include. Even punching it mid-corner with the wheel really turned a lot, it still does such a good job of putting the power down. Man, this thing, it's done such a good job in this. But anyway, thanks to Hyundai, I'm going to have the Veloster N here for an entire week, so I'm going to drive around all over the place and have a very fun week, and then I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world fuel economy here, as well as my thoughts on the pricing and anything else that I noticed during my week of driving here. Alright, so I've been driving the Veloster N DCT for a week now, and oh man, this thing is fantastic. I did notice though that, all the little toys you get here, I didn't really find myself using them a whole lot. I mean, I did use the manual shifting a good bit of the time. I love the custom mode, that's something you get with the manual too. But like the NGS mode of, the overboost thing, I never found myself like floored and being like, man, I really wish I had like an extra 20 pound-feet of torque, because unfortunately that's a DCT only thing. But, it's a fun toy. I just don't know. I mean, maybe I'd have to, live with one of these for longer than a week to really see how much I would use that. But, just in a week-long drive here, I didn't find myself being like, oh man, I'm so glad I have that NGS mode. But it is, again, just a fun little thing that they added. Other things, though, is that this dual-clutch transmission is really good. So the manual shifts and stuff aren't quick enough that it, never annoyed me or anything. I still, depending on, sometimes it's a little bit quicker feeling than like Volkswagen's DSG and the GTI.
Departure at all costs. The demonstration follow one another every day here with more determination, more hatred towards everything.
That's volume at 14. Let's get some volume.
So setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat. Wranglers, like I said, you are sitting up higher thanks to that 2-inch lift here on the Rubicon 392. So you have a higher seating position. Of course, you have excellent visibility here in these Wranglers, like always. So it's a very airy, open, high experience. It gives you a very fun and unique driving experience as well. But otherwise, the second you get on that gas, you start hearing that Hemi 392 V8 engine, and it is really the dominating factor of this whole experience. Because generally, like in other Wranglers, you heard the engines for sure. It's not like they were quiet engines, but it was always just kind of in the background, and it wasn't really the focal point of the Wrangler. Now the V8 is the focal point, and it is a delightful thing to listen to. I really love how there's way less sound deadening in the Wrangler than there is in any other Mopar product that uses this engine. And so, I mean, you hear everything. You hear all the mechanical workings of the engine a little bit more in the Wrangler. You hear just way more exhaust too, and it is a little more droney. So, it's not too bad, especially whenever it's warmed up and stuff, but on low throttle, you sometimes do hear it at different frequencies and stuff. And thankfully, like I said, you can switch it on and off, and so you can turn it off, and then the drone goes away completely, which is great. But then it gets a little too quiet. I mean, it is the quiet mode, so I don't blame them for making it as quiet as they did. But it's just, I wish there was more modes to pick from. Maybe one that didn't have drone would be nice. But this is what it sounds like whenever you have the exhaust off. And then it just sounds like a slightly more burly version of the V6 or something. It's very subdued and stuff. But we'll leave the exhaust on because that's where all the fun is to be had in this thing. But yeah, so it does drone. Mopar exhaust on most of their SRT products and stuff usually do have a fair amount of drone. Customers don't really seem to mind, and so that's why they continue on with the drone and stuff. I personally don't love it, because you don't need to have drone. That is one thing. There's lots of other amazing sounding exhausts that just don't drone. I wish that this didn't have the drone, but that's my only nitpick here with the Wrangler 392, which again, you can turn off the push of a button, so not something to dwell on. Other things though, the Wrangler experience is still well intact here. The V8 engine, although it's transformed the acceleration and for road handling and many other things, the driving experience on road here is still fairly similar as far as everything else goes. Like, you still have pretty loose and imprecise steering. I think it is a little bit sharper here, maybe in the 392 than it is in other versions of the Wrangler, but still is.
Now, the one that I'm driving also has the one-touch power soft top, so it's got essentially a hard top on the outside, but the roof panel is a fabric material, and it allows me to basically put the entire roof back. I was hoping that this model would give me a little bit more sound insulation from the outside world, but as you can hear as we get up to highway speeds, it's still pretty noisy out in the cabin. Wranglers are not known for offering, obviously, a quiet interior. But I'm still in electric mode right now, and you can see the gas engine has not come on. Still just driving on pure electric mode. When I started this trip, by the way, I want to mention the range was showing 26 miles. 26 miles is pretty good. That's around 5 miles more than what the EPA says this thing can go. Remember, Jeep said originally this would have 25 miles of range, but the actual number is 21. I imagine the Rubicon model has less range because of its, bigger, knobbier 33-inch tall tires. This is a 5,000-pound brick, and there's only so much range you can pull out of a brick because it is just not aerodynamic. Jeep didn't do anything to actually make the 4xe model a little bit more aerodynamic, but you can see out on the highway at highway speeds, it's still pretty loud in here, but the Wrangler is a much more comfortable vehicle in general. The seats are pretty comfortable. The Sahara trim, or this high-altitude version, has a really nice plusher leather material. It feels good. The regen brakes also are really nice. I barely have to touch the brake when traffic comes to a stop, and it automatically brakes for me, and it's also putting energy back into the battery pack, which is a great thing. That's the one beauty about these one-pedal drive features, is you can save your brake pads. You don't have to use your friction brakes as much.
And see how it does. And here we go. Wow! Listen to that! Wow, that sounds fantastic! Holy crap! That sounds, oh man, they need to get this sound in the Challenger and the Charger. This is amazing! I was not expecting it to sound that good! Wow, okay. Man, this is fantastic. So, the regular 392 here runs, like I said, 6.4 liter heavy V8 engine. It has 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque as well. Jeep claims a 4.5 second 0 to 60 time, which I would say is accurate. It does definitely just shove you into the back of your seat, but it's not, it's not going to be as fast feeling as a 392 Challenger or Charger or something like that, because again, you're on these massive tires, you're in a super heavy thing, doesn't have great aerodynamics, all this type of things. Again, not a sports vehicle, not, acceleration is not the focal point here in the Wranglers ever, but, it is nice that it is pretty quick, and, it's hooked up to the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. It's the 8HP 75 version of this transmission, but we'll go ahead and try out some manual shifts here just because we do have paddle shifters now, so I feel like I should test it out here. So first, listen, crackles and pops. Man, I love how much you hear this thing. Man, this could arguably be one of the most fun vehicles with this engine. And I love the Challenger and the Charger. I'm not an off-road person, but man, I mean, it's like that exhaust is right over your shoulder there. It's like, it's hilarious. But anyway, the manual shifts and stuff are pretty quick. Oh man, it's not quite as fast as you get in some other SRT products I've noticed, but it's pretty responsive, pretty fun to play with if you want to. We're coming up some corners here. I am not going to fly around corners in this thing because again, we have a 2-inch lift We have this big heavy engine sitting up, fairly high in this thing. And again, we are in a Wrangler with mud tires, so I would be foolish to be pushing this thing at all, especially, this much power. You can get yourself into trouble flinging this thing into a corner with how high up it is. But, going around corners here, it is handling itself surprisingly well. It certainly is better than the average run-of-the-mill Wrangler. Now, I do like how they added it to the Unlimited version, so you have a little bit more stability with a longer wheelbase than what you get with the two-door version. Those can be a little bit interesting still if you go into a corner a little bit too quickly. The four-door versions here, it's a little bit more stable. I prefer the driving experience of the Unlimiteds. I've talked about that in the past in my 2.0T Wrangler Unlimited review, and even the Eco Diesel one that I drove. But this, it does handle itself fairly well. Again, like I said, the steering is pretty imprecise and stuff. No one really cares how this thing handles on road, but since most people that buy are going to actually be driving these on road, I feel like it's worth mentioning how it handles and drives. Now, you also do have upgraded brakes from the Mojave and the 4xe version, so larger brakes to haul this vehicle down to a stop, because you do have about 650 pounds of extra weight here. The estimate here is about 5,100 pounds for the curb weight for one of these Wranglers versus about 4,450 for a Wrangler Rubicon Unlimited with the normal V6. So a lot of extra weight. Now, they did a lot more than just drop this engine in to make this version. So the engine, by the way, it doesn't just drop right in. They had to do a bunch of modifications. They had to move the alternator. They had to do special exhaust setup so that it all fits snugly in there. And there's several other changes they made. It was not an easy swap over to put this engine in, but they made it work, and I appreciate, again, those Jeep engineers for being awesome and going to the trouble of doing that. But yeah, so in addition to that, though, it has upgraded frame rails. Of course, like I said, you have the higher lift. You have the Fox shocks. It has a Dana 44 axles front and back there, and two-speed transfer case still. But it does have full-time four-wheel drive. So unlike others where you can sometimes have two-wheel drive Wranglers, this is four-wheel drive all the time. There's a 4 auto, and then there's a 4 high part-time mode. But then that off-road plus mode allows you to go in and lock the differentials even at high speeds, which is a cool little thing that you can have there. And so it's nice that they've included that. You also do still have a 4 low mode to crawl. As far as that full-time four-wheel drive system, so it defaults to about a 70% rear, 30 front bias, but it can go to full 50-50 too if you wanted to. And since this is a Rubicon, you also have the disconnecting sway bars, the front and rear locking diffs and all that. But yeah, I'm gonna do another acceleration because it's just too much fun in this thing. It's addicting. Here we go. One of the things that adds to the fun of the V8 Wrangler is that you still have, they definitely, they retuned the suspension geometry, the shocks, the dampers, all that kind of stuff are all different and changed, but it still has that softer ride of a Wrangler, so that, unlike some of the other stuff, the sportier SRT products where it's, very flat and controlled, this, whenever you floor it, the whole nose lifts up and it goes all dramatic on you, and it's hilarious that if you let off the gas and you're onto the brakes, it really shifts around on you and moves around a lot, way more involving, way more exciting, and a little more sketchy feeling than what you get with all the other SRT products, which again adds that excitement and that fun, even though it's not fast and sports car-like, it's hilarious fun. And anyone who appreciates the Mercedes G-Wagon, especially the AMG version of those, this is kind of like that at half the price, and it's all the fun, if not even slightly, maybe even more fun than what you get with an AMG G-Wagon for $75,000 instead of $150 to $200 grand or whatever those things go for. And those are a lot of fun. I did already review an AMG G-Wagon. They are fantastic, but this is even more raw because it's a little bit smaller, a little bit less of a luxury experience like you get in the Mercedes. This is one of those vehicles you don't need to spend a lot of time with it to get a sense of what it's like and to get a sense of what this thing is about. And all it takes really is a few accelerations in this thing, and you have the full story here, and at least on road. Obviously the big piece of the puzzle here is off-road. They heavily improved the off-road handling. Like I said, it has the best approach and departure angles out of any Wrangler thanks to that additional lift. Of course, having the extra power as well is going to be fantastic to power you out of sand or mud or whatever you're in, and do it with a fantastic soundtrack, I might add. That's going to be where this thing really is going to feel like it's really coming alive. That's its element. Its element is not the streets here. Unfortunately, I just did not have time to go take it on off-road trails and stuff. I only was able to actually spend about 2 afternoons with this vehicle, unfortunately, due to circumstances outside of my control personally. So even though Jeep lent me this thing for an entire week, it was just sitting in my driveway begging for me to drive it. I could not drive it because I was not home. So I wish I had more time to have fun with this thing. But like I said, you get a good sense of what it's like just with a very first test drive. This is one of those cases, one of those vehicles where the engine makes up for any other shortcomings. Whenever you floor it and you hear that thing, all is forgiven. You don't care about anything else in the vehicle. It's just, you just put your foot down. Your day is instantly 10 times better, and that's the end of it. But also, since it's not the fastest thing out there, you know, it's not about straight line speed. It's not about beating people with stoplights or drag racing. It's just about having fun. And the Wrangler's always been about having fun. Now you have fun with a fantastic soundtrack with even more speed and hilarity. And as we just passed another Wrangler, another fun thing if you were to daily drive one of these is you get the Jeep Wave in that community, which is really an awesome thing that is pretty unique. I mean, there are some other, you know, car communities out there that are pretty tightly knit, but I think the Jeep community is, especially the Wrangler community in particular, is very, very, seems like a really fun community, and so it's awesome that you get that kind of built in as well whenever you buy one of these. If you don't ever plan to off-road one of these things, just having that raw experience and this adventure-ready type of vibe makes every mundane trip a little bit more fun, and a little bit more of an adventure and an event to go out in a Wrangler, and particularly in a V8 Wrangler, it's an even more fun event.
I was in Austin, Texas, but from the scenery, it looks like Jeep has transported us back to Jurassic Park because we're here in a drop-top Wrangler. We're on our way to this off-road course, and we're gonna see what the electrified 4xe can do out on these conditions. Now there's a little puddle of water over here. Jeep says that this car is capable of going through 30 inches of water. Obviously, this is more like 3 inches. But it's always fun to go through some water whenever you're off-roading. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier is when you're sitting inside the car, there is a nice little LED status bar here that shows how much charge is remaining in the vehicle when you have it plugged in. Each of the LED lights light up in sequence, and they get a little bit more full whenever the battery gets more charge in it. I think the coolest part about the 4xe when you're off-roading is the fact that the four-wheel drive system in this Wrangler is exactly the same as the gas-only version. You still have the Dana 44 sway bar disconnect features. I mean, I'm in 4 low right now, and it's in all-electric mode. I've got around 33% of the battery left, and you can just creep along here in completely all EV mode in 4 low. That is the first time that you're ever experiencing something like this. And if you guys have always wanted a drop-top convertible that's electric, there has been nothing on the market until now. This is the first one, really. All right, so as opposed to the puddle earlier, now we're going through an actual little, I guess, a stream right now, but this is where Jeep is going to allow us to test the 30 inches of water fording capability. And this is probably something that I know this is something I've never done, is drive in all electric mode through this stream. And this is pretty deep water. You can hear it on the outside. And the Rubicon model is the one that you're gonna want because this is the one that gives you almost 11 inches of ground clearance. Wow, this is pretty deep. I'm pretty impressed. And the fact that it's quiet out here, I don't hear a thing other than just water splashing. This is pretty deep. So now I'm supposed to go up this. This is kind of terrifying. Okay, pretty cool. Wow, and the instant torque from the electric motor, I just barely touch the throttle and this thing just surges forward. But the all-electric torque makes it so easy. I barely have to touch the throttle. This is so strange.
That's very interesting. Interesting surprise.
Yeah, it's so quiet out here too. I mean, this is the future of off-roading right here. Wow, that was terrifying. That was terrifying. Okay. Okay. And we're still in all electric right now.
much did you regenerate?
Probably nothing, but that was terrifying. Like, my foot was not, I was like, I'm not letting go of this brake. Like, oh my God. I don't know if I trusted it to actually use the brake. I was like, It did, yeah.
See Rex behind us, he's before us.
Woo! That is so cool. All right, this thing is way more fun off-roading than it is on the road. Wow. That was only like literally just a little bit of throttle. That wasn't much. If you go past 50%, I notice it'll turn the engine on. But... Son of a Sorry, Rob. Where's my shirt? It says sorry, Rob. So I think the reason being is because your model has those bigger tires.
Yeah.
Those bigger tires are definitely cutting into...
I'm higher off the ground too, aren't I?
You have about an extra inch of ground clearance.
Yeah, so air, tires...
Would you like to try it again?
Ah! Ah! Come on! Come on!
All right, now they seem about, I'll tell you one thing, going highway speeds in this thing is interesting. It's loud in here. It's very loud.
You think it's loud in there? I've got the soft top.
Honestly, I don't think this is any quieter. It's really loud in here.
Really? Is your retractable one a hard top or a soft top?
So the retractable part is a soft top.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's still pretty. Yeah, I got you.
It's still pretty noisy. So I was telling people, if you are expecting this to be quieter, you may want to go for the actual hardtop model and then add the hardtop headliner, which should make it a little quieter. But this soft top model is definitely a little bit louder. But as we saw, the Rubicon is slightly slower. I guess it kind of depends on whose reaction time is better, but extra inch of ground clearance, the bigger tires, it slows it down a little bit. I also think yours is heavier. Yours is heavier by a little bit because of the off-road.
Just by a little bit, other than the driver, of course.
Oh, stop.
I also, you know,
there is also the Ram TRX, which is also fantastic off-road. It has a Hellcat-powered V8 engine and stuff, which is also fantastic, fun in its own way. I just spent a week with one of those. And now on the highway here in the Wrangler 392. Again, like I said, lots of road noise and wind noise. And also, you know, you're very susceptible to wind gusts in this vehicle because of its flat sides and, you know, the aerodynamics of this thing. So you are going to be fighting the wind a little bit in these vehicles. And so, you know, it's not a great highway driving experience. It's also not great on long trips because there's no dead pedal. So it's not great. Now, they did make it a little bit better in these because the Rubicon...
All right, so all of that for $500. Let's see what it is. Now, before I unbox it, let's take a look at this product video just so you get an idea of how this is supposed to be used. All right, so you've seen the video for yourself. Let's see. Yeah, these just fit right on the top. Now, for the pairing process, real simple. If you got an Android phone, once you power up the speaker, you're going to get the Google Fast Pair pop-up. Hit connect. It's going to ask you to download the Sony app. Once you download it, hit start setup. Now, if you got an iPhone, just go to your Bluetooth settings, select the Sony AX7, and then download the app. All right, so one quick side note. If you want to experience the spatial sound, this is the best way to set up the speakers. You're going to have the unit in front of you and the two satellites on either side. And you're going to create this little bubble. Now, for the purpose of this video, it's going to be hard for me to actually demonstrate that on camera, but I'll try to make it work. All right, so once you get everything set up, here's how the app is going to look. That has the name on the top. It has your battery percentage for the front, the left, and the right. It shows what device you're connected to. You got your different modes, so you can switch between night mode, sound field, or voice mode. You can raise or lower the volume from the rear and the bass, and you got some more settings. So you got Bluetooth settings, system settings, software update, tutorial, and help. Okay, now of course, y'all know I got to get maximum bass. But for the first test, we'll start off at 0. All right, so now let's do a little sound test. Of course, I got the official Flossie Carter sound test by my homeboy Mark Rebier. Here we go.
Yo, sound test, time for sound test. Everybody shut your mouth, time for sound test. Time to test that quality of sound test. How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? Does it sound big? Does it sound loud? How's the bass, baby? How's the treble on it? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. Sound test. That's a sound test, baby. That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. How's the sound on that shit? God damn it, holla.
Okay, now this actually sounds pretty good, but here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take it over to the EQ, and we're going to go to maximum bass. Okay, so let's try that again.
Yo, sound test, time for sound test. Everybody shut your mouth, time for sound test. Time to test that quality of sound test. How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? Does it sound big? Does it sound loud? How's the bass, baby? How's the treble on it? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. Sound test. That's a sound test, baby. That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. How's the sound on that shit? God damn it, holla. How's the sound, white shoes? How's the sound on it?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Rebier. This sounds dope. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this upstairs and set it up in my office and try the 360 spatial sound mapping. But just real quick down here, let's take these off. Okay, you see, sound field activated. Let's try that one more time and see if we hear any difference.
Yo, sound test, time for sound test. Everybody shut your mouth, time for sound test. Time to test that quality of sound test. How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? Does it sound big? Does it sound loud? How's the bass, baby? How's the treble on it? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? That's a sound test.
This is crazy. Let me explain, but it sounds dope. It definitely sounds like surround sound. Now I want to try something else. All right, now I'm going to take these upstairs and try to give you a better look of how I'm setting it up. But down here in my basement, here's what I'm going to do. So I got a YouTube video right here. Got the speaker set up right here. I'm going to put each satellite speaker behind me, I would say about 3 feet. Okay? One behind each side of me in a triangular shape. Okay, so kind of like a little bubble right now. Let's hit play on the video. I'm going to lean back and give y'all my honest impression of how this sounds.
Okay, we made it. We made it. Okay, guys, so it's dark.
Okay.
We're gonna have to turn the flash on when we start like really getting into it. But we're at Rocco's. This is my dad.
Yeah, I know what it is. Big Floss in the building.
Oh no. Anyway, what are you drinking?
I had a little.
That's ice.
Yeah, I had a little raspberry margarita, but
let me grab the speakers again. Some videos on YouTube are not going to do the product justice, and this is one of those, okay? You can't hear surround sound through a YouTube video. But I'm going to give you my impression of these. I love them. Okay, now I travel a lot. Imagine in your hotel room, you have this at the edge of your bed, and one side, on one of these on each side of the nightstands. This is going to sound dope. Now, the 2 satellite speakers, I got them on max volume. They're not the loudest in the world, but it gives you the highs and the mids. So it kind of focuses on the voices, and it gives you that surround sound effect. I am feeling these, though. This is a great idea. And if you travel, look how easy these are. You see the little lights? Charge up the satellite speakers. Now, if I want to, I can watch the video just like this.
Was it good?
What do you think?
It's empty, exactly.
Okay. Then,
So I got a nice little salad going on with some.
Yo, this is dope. This is dope.
What you got?
I got the sizzling bacon.
1 piece of bacon. That's absolutely
Because I'm a
ridiculous.
Bro, this is so dope. This is dope. Now, I want to check one more feature real quick before I set them up upstairs. All right, so let's check multi-point connection. We got 2 different phones paired up. We got an Android phone and an iPhone. We'll start with the Android.
Oh, it's actually good though.
Cut it out. We're still at dinner.
Okay. Now the iPhone.
With the light on, say less.
Oh, wait a minute. This might work.
Okay.
This kind of.
Multi-point connection works flawlessly. All right, so here's how it looks set up in the office. That's the main unit right there. Then I got a satellite on this side and a satellite on this side. Now it's going to be hard to hear in this camera, but listen to this.
Let me zoom in. All right, so I'm sitting here on the Catalina Island, right off the coast of LA. Let's walk around and check out this beautiful city before it gets too dark.
This sounds incredible. Let's hit pause. Surround sound, portable. This is incredible. All right, so let's check the call quality. I'm calling up Amaya. Let's get maximum volume.
Hello.
Hi, girlie.
Hello, Father.
What's up? What you doing?
Remember church?
Oh, you at church? Man.
I hate you so much.
All right, don't let me interfere with you, but I do got to ask you a question. All right, I'm testing out a new speaker.
Okay.
I'm using a speakerphone. How do I sound?
You sound good.
Okay, not like that trash from yesterday.
Huh?
Not like that trash from yesterday.
No.
Okay, it's kind of loud in that church. Who that? Kirk Franklin yet?
You're annoying. We're getting food now. You're so annoying.
Oh, okay. All right. Man, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
You're annoying. All right, bye.
Bye. Okay, speakerphone on deck. Again, perfect for travel. When you're doing your work, watching your videos, you get a phone call, you can answer it from your phone or just press the button right there. Enjoy that speakerphone. Now, you can also use the speaker to charge up other devices. So say I want to charge up my phone. We're just going to grab a cable, plug it in, charging right up. All right, so one quick thing I want to mention. I love how easy this is to use. When you're playing your video, all you have to do, if you want surround sound, is take off the speakers, and they'll automatically connect. Now watch this. Say I'm watching the video, using the speaker as one unit. When I pop these off, they automatically connect just that fast. And now I'm getting my surround sound. Now if I just want to blast music from one speaker, put them back on the top, you're going to see the 2 little LEDs kick in. That means they're charging up, and it's one unit again. All right.
This is the 1978 Pontiac Firebird that I picked up in the super value pack of Road Racers. Incredibly cheap, value-priced cars. Look at the wheels on this thing. Horrible. However, this is a Pontiac Firebird, and that saves it from the sledgehammer. Even though it doesn't even have a dashboard or steering wheel. More room to store your ZZ Top cassettes, I guess. Most of the cars that came in the super value pack, it's a Pontiac Firebird. And like a phoenix, it rises from the ashes to drink beer, listen to ZZ Top, and kick ass.
Recognize the admission of Finland and Sweden to NATO, because we all know that, looking from an historical perspective, NATO members have brought their national issues to the...
The Pontiac Transport is the APV that will fill the sporty minivan niche in GM's marketing strategy. But sport is more a matter of styling here than major mechanical changes. This Pontiac gets the same engine as the other GM APVs, a 120 horsepower 3.1-liter V6. Ditto the transmission, a 3-speed automatic. The engine makes much of its power at low RPM, and judging by the first few feet of travel, the Transport feels like it's going to move along pretty well. But the current APV engine runs out of breath quickly as speed increases, and the result is a leisurely 12.3-second 0 to 60 time. That's about 1.5 seconds slower than the last Chrysler minivan we tested, which had Chrysler's new 3.3-liter V6. But there is hope. Both a 4-speed automatic and a larger 3.8-liter engine will be available in the Transport next model year. Thanks to 15-inch wheels and Eagle GT Plus 4 tires on our SE model, handling is better than the Chrysler competition. We strongly recommend ordering any APV with these larger tires. The power rack and pinion steering has a good feel, and emergency stability is also good, if still clearly in the minivan category. Brakes fared well. Stops from 60 miles per hour took 131 straight feet, a good average, and a shorter distance than we recorded for the Lumina. The fade we found in the Lumina was not present here. The Transport does have a seating arrangement that's sporty enough. In the SE version, it's a 2+2+2 affair, 6 buckets in all. And the rear 2 rows of buckets can be folded down to create a flat load area of roughly 4 by 6 feet. If that won't do, each of the rear seats has a quick release lever for painless removal. The seats are easy to handle too, weighing in at only 34 pounds apiece. Up front, the Transport gets a dash that's reminiscent of the one on our long-term Grand Prix. And to justify the sport in its name, the Transport gets a complete set of instruments. That's right, oil pressure and coolant temperature readouts are included. The front seats are comfortable, but the seat backs are hard and the lumbar area is very pronounced, as in some Hondas. This power driver's seat comes in one of the 2 major option packages. The SE comes standard with a tilt wheel and cruise control. A compact disc player is optional. Other redeeming qualities include a dash with lots of storage space and a cup mug holder. Outside, the Transport has styling themes that tell you it is a Pontiac, but it shares space frame substructure and injection molded plastic skin with other GM APVs. Visibility through the 17.25 square foot heat reflective windshield and over the long snout is also the same as in other APVs. It takes some getting used to. And the price, $14,995 for the base Transport, $18,125 for the SE. With options, our test vehicle came to $19,060. Appropriately, the Transport base price is midway between those of Chevrolet and Olds APV offerings. We'll be glad when the Pontiac Transport gets more power to go along with its sporty image, but its unique to Pontiac features and equipment improve what is already becoming a hot new minivan design. Our car of the week is a 1939.
That is French. It is to break down barriers here.
Platform of the alliance whenever any particular topic came to the agenda.
Let's to thank one of our sponsors, Farmers Insurance.
Fear not, for I have come to save.
Way ahead of you. Switched her to Farmers so she could save an average of $437 on her home insurance.
Is thither nothing thou needed saving? An elder needed help crossing the road. I'm very good at that.
I'm good with the $437 I saved, but thank you.
If you need saving, get a quote from Farmers.
We are farmers, bum 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 bum.